When a gamer buys a PS4 disc, they have the rights to use that copy of the game. They can trade in the game at retail, sell it to another person, lend it to a friend, or keep it forever.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still reeling in from the whole effects of yesterday when effectively one of the core reasons for my gaming enjoyment was basically taken away. Now, I think this is probably one of the stupidest things that any game company has ever done, but it's not just a Sony thing. So yes, we're talking again a little bit. I had some time to process this. I had some time to get really serious about it. And I wanted to kind of follow up with another video on this just to kind of get all of my thoughts out. So PlayStation will not have physical discs in 2028. That much we do know, okay? I was kind of hoping yesterday with the amount of metric backlash that we saw from everyone in the community, there were huge celebrities coming out and talking about this, that Sony would just go, oh guys, by the way, we fucked up. We're sorry. You know what? We're actually going to release physical games for the foreseeable future. That so far has not happened. Sony has not really said anything. And honestly, I don't think anything is going to change. I think the actual the actual bomb has dropped, and the reality of it is that I guess most people are just going to have to get used to that shit. I've seen a lot of memes being shared around with people saying the death of physical game releases are caused because gamers buy 85 to 93% of all of their games digitally. Why would Sony and Rockstar Games do this? So yeah, honestly, to an extent, it's not a shock. A lot of people do purchase their games digitally, might I add. It's not something that is uncommon. I know friends of mine that don't purchase physical media. They just go to the PlayStation Store, they find the game that they want, they connect their credit card, and they purchase the game, okay? I'm even somebody that's bought in a few games digitally here and there because sometimes the sale is good. Sometimes it is really that convenient. But I'm somebody that prioritizes physical media all the time. And so there's a lot of things that are kind of going wrong here. There's a lot of things worth talking about in this situation. So let's start off with number one. Is it true that a vast majority of people are buying games so digitally that nobody is touching a physical purchase? Well, there's been people that have researched a little bit into this, and they found that according to internal data, leaked information from things like the Insomniac leak, that there are actually games that do have a fair split where, again, when it comes to physical media, sometimes, depending on the type of game, people do purchase discs over the digital. So, for instance, single-player games like, I guess, Spider-Man, 66% go to the physical side, 34% purchase games digitally, right? Now, again, I haven't seen this data myself to confirm it, but I have seen people post, again, information from UK retailers. And it seems, obviously, in situations like this, if this report is to be believed, there are people that when they go out and they purchase something like, Rainbow Six Siege. Perfect example. Retail, they sell 1,592 copies, and digitally, they sell 285,000 copies. So you might be like, well, Muda, why did 99% of the people just buy the digital version? Well, the reality of it is Rainbow Six Siege is a free-to-play game now. It's also a purely multiplayer experience. Buying the disc honestly feels like it's more of a hassle than it really is worth it. But of course, in some cases, for instance, you've got games like, I guess, Red Dead Redemption 2, where yes, 37,000 people purchased the game physically, 311,000 did buy it digitally, which means that 89% of the sales here went digital. In cases like, I guess, what is the one with the lowest percentage? You've got games like Elden Ring, where 83,000 people buy it physically, 179,000 people buy it digitally. And in some cases, you've got things like EA Sports FC, where 578,000 retail, 1.5 million digital. It is true that a lot of people do purchase their games digitally, and to an extent, I would say that maybe the market kind of proved that digital is sort of the future. But here's where the problem of this story kind of comes into, right? Again, digital-only gaming is something that is possible on many platforms. In fact, on PC, which is the platform that I guess I'm basically now a 100% gamer on, is a purely, mostly digital storefront. Now, the reality of this is that, listen, I had some people gotcha me the other day or two, like try to gotcha and say, well, Muda, if you're going to switch to Steam, isn't that the same thing? Why are you fucking being performative? Just buy the digital slop on PlayStation. Here's my viewpoint, okay? If we're going into a world that is purely digital, not a world that I enjoy, by the way, I'm going to have to pick the platform that is the most consumer friendly, which would actually be the PC. And let me explain why. On PlayStation, on Xbox, on Nintendo, you will have digital games and you will only have one storefront to go to. So when you go to Nintendo Switch, right, and you purchase a game digitally, there is no competition. If Nintendo goes 100% digital, which could be the future, you will never see a sale in your life. And this goes for PlayStation and this goes for Xbox. You know, if you go to the store right now for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, you'll see that it's $93 Canadian, right? That's before taxes. Now, if you have a disk drive in your PlayStation, you can go to, again, you can go all the way to Amazon and see that, whoa, ladies and gentlemen, it's $62 on a sale right now at Amazon. In fact, even without a sale, if you can read this, it's like $70, meaning that even without a sale, you're still saving a lot of money getting the physical copy of the game that actually has the whole game on the disc, and you can share it around. So immediately you'll notice that because there exists multiple ways to purchase video games, you can go to a store and buy a physical copy. You're not completely beholden to the PlayStation Store. Without the ability to purchase this game physically at Amazon or any store, you are now locked to a $93 digital license that you can't share around, and you sure as fuck shouldn't expect any like frequent sales on, because without any competition, there is no reason for a PlayStation gamer to receive a sale on something that exists in this capacity, right? Because if there's no other option, you're just gonna go here and you're gonna have to fucking grit your teeth and bite it anyways. That's the problem with a digital locked-in future. There is no reason to provide you with any benefits. You know, when I was younger and they said, oh, because we don't have to produce any discs or like boxes, everything's gonna get cheaper. But in reality, the games stayed at the same price and they just basically got more expensive. Why would you purchase a game for $93 when you can go to the store and purchase a physical disc that does in fact contain this whole game on the disc? How do I know this? Because I made a video reviewing the game. And when I review these games, I tend to get the physical copy a little bit earlier, like a few days. And I normally don't install the day one patches. I just connect my console, I disconnect it from the internet, put in the disc, and play the 1.0 build for most of my like actual experience. And it works pretty well for the most part. I've never really had glaring issues. So again, ultimately speaking, besides all of this, there are other issues too. For instance, if it comes to racing games, go to the Xbox store, for instance, and look up a game called Forza Horizon 2. You will not find Forza Horizon 2 anywhere in this fucking list. In fact, if anything, it seems like it just is a game that doesn't exist. It's delisted. And the reality of it is, with car games and music, a lot of those games do get delisted because of licenses. Now, if you have a physical disc for Forza Horizon 2, which I do, you can just put that disc into your Xbox One or Xbox Series, and without connecting to the internet, you can install the base version of the game and still play Forza Horizon 2. Now, here's the thing. Digitally, if you purchased it, I'm sure you can re-download it. But if you're somebody that, you know, never got the chance to buy the game, right? And you're like, shit, I want to play the older Forza games. You can't even get the option. And because you're locked into an Xbox ecosystem, in this case, there is no other option for you to look at another storefront, another key that you can find online that you can redeem somewhere, or install like, I don't know, maybe install like a little extra legal version of the game, or just find like an abandoned version of the game and play that. No, you're only locked into this ecosystem. Another example, Burnout 3. You know, Burnout 3 is one of my favorite racing games. It's a favorite racing game for a lot of people. Now, if you look at Burnout 3, you can't even find the original Xbox version of the game over here. It just doesn't exist. Now, this is where, like, again, when I go to the PC side of the industry, something that I find really important is, at the end of the day, here's Burnout 3 Takedown running in an emulator. It's not difficult for me to grab a controller and just emulate the game, the PS2 version, on the actual, like, system. In fact, I'll run it for you right here. Like, to cut out the licensed music from this whole situation, you can see that obviously I'm playing the game just fine, it's running in an emulator, and of course, obviously it's the original PlayStation 2 version. If I wanted to up the resolution to like 6K, I absolutely could through an emulator, you know? We're at a point where companies keep selling you remasters, but it's not difficult for you to go into the graphic settings of a video game, go to the rendering option, grab that like 6 times 4K internal resolution, and next thing you know, right over here, the game looks a hell of a lot sharper in the distance. And I didn't have to pay anything to be able to play this game online. This is ultimately the future that exists. And this is one of the reasons why, obviously, I will stick to the PC version of anything. Because even if I'm living in a digital future, I'd rather live in a world where there's multiple different storefronts that I can go to. There's multiple different options that I have. And when it comes to game preservation, because of things like emulation, I can actually preserve old games that still to this day, you know, if you put this in front of anybody else, they could still have a hell of a lot of fun nowadays. Maybe even more fun than a whole bunch of games that are released now. And of course, ultimately that was powerful. That was possible through the power of like playing the game on PC. The other thing that, you know, I think just sort of is so stupid with the loss of physical media is just the ability to like share video games. You know, one of the most important things that I had, you know, was the ability to, you know, go to my brother and like, we don't play a lot of like multiplayer games together, but we do talk a lot about single player stuff. And you know, when I was younger, isn't it kind of poetic that like one of the first games that I ever owned on PlayStation, which was Final Fantasy VII, right? The original RPG. Maybe if I choose to buy it, the last game that I may own would be the physical version of the third part of the Final Fantasy VII remake project. But the reason I have these games over here is that when my brother wanted to play FF7 Remake, you know, instead of going to like Steam or whatever, I don't even think the game was out on Steam at the time. I had finished this game, you know, about a week or two into its release cycle. So I was like, listen, bro, I got you a copy of Final Fantasy VII. You can just borrow my copy. And the thing about it is this contains both the data install disk and the retail disk. So anytime somebody tells you, but Muda, the physical, you still have to download the game. No, all you have to do is put in the part 1 disk, install 50 gigs from here, and then install the remaining 50 gigs from the actual play disk, okay? It's all on the disk. So my brother just ends up borrowing my copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake and playing it there. And once he's finished, you know, down the road, I ended up giving him my copy of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? So I think one of the big reasons why we're kind of seeing this happen is that, you know, when I did this with my brother, that's basically like what, $70 here. I think this was $60 on release, $70 here. Basically $150, $160 worth of games and money that Sony never really received, nor Square Enix, because my ass was sharing my physical copies with my brother. And I think one of the things that has sort of like resulted in this is companies have kind of realized that, listen, if we want to like make a sale, if we want to keep making sales, they basically lost out on 2 sales because of what I did. And I think a lot of it is just these companies want to take away all these physical licenses, these physical discs, because ultimately the end, they want to maximize sales, obviously as much as they can. You know, for the longest time, dude, one of the reasons why I bought PlayStation, or one of the reasons why I got consoles in general, was because the only tangible benefit they ever had was like physical releases, right? Like the ability for you to go purchase a video game and just share it around, or at least own something. Now with PlayStation 6, which I guess at this point is pretty much a digital only system, and I'm not assuming that Xbox isn't. I've heard Xbox is also going this digital route, which kind of basically makes the Xbox One win in the long term. You know, Xbox Helix, whatever that may be, if it's also something that you purchase your games only digitally, that sucks too. And if Nintendo Switch 3 comes down the road where they're like, you know, maybe fuck the game card, fuck the whole game key card nonsense, just have everything routed to the Play Store or the Nintendo Store, then there really isn't any reason for me to get excited for any of these systems in general. Because at that point, you're just purchasing like a gimped computer, right? You're purchasing a computer that just does not have the same freedom that a regular computer has. And from what I'm hearing, like Nintendo, or at least PlayStation, is kind of pushing towards a future where they're not going to be subsidizing their systems anymore. So even that whole, you know, theory at one point where, you know, if you bought a PlayStation, you were spending less than a computer. Now you're actually probably going to be spending the same amount as a computer anyways. but your games are never going to be coming on sale. You're never going to have real, actual competition. Now on PC, a gotcha that I was receiving was like, well, Steam is what most gamers use anyways. But that's not necessarily true, right? Sometimes you can find a sale on Epic Games Store. There are some games from Ubisoft that I purchased on like a 30% off on things like their own launcher. And in some cases, you have GOG, which is basically my preferred launcher. I actually look at games here before I buy on, anything on Steam. And the reality of this is that even GOG, if you look at this, right, this is a great example of how digital works in a preservationist manner. So when it came to my brother again, right, he was like, I want to play Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm like, I got you. So I actually gave him my GOG account. I don't know if I'm even allowed to do this. This could get my GOG account banned. But I'm on pretty good terms with those guys, and, we like each other. But basically what I did was I actually gave him my account. He downloaded Cyberpunk 2077 and downloaded the DLC. So again, on my account, he downloaded this, played through the game without ever connecting to a third-party launcher, because the way GOG works is you can basically just click on any of these downloads, save them to an external hard drive, and without the internet, you can basically just install Cyberpunk and its DLC totally locally. You can even make your own physical copy. You can buy some Blu-rays and burn all these files to a Blu-ray and put some discard on there, and bam, you now have a PC physical copy of an actual AAA video game, right? But another great example, right? When I wanted to play SWAT 4 with Kyle and Amaru, instead of them buying their own games, I went to my GOG account. I was like, here's SWAT 4 Gold Edition. And we just played with each other over the internet, right? Using the same copy that I effectively had over here. So instead of them purchasing the game, again, I was like, here's a copy of mine. So on PC, digital only, even if we're going to be living in this scenario anyways, there's no reason for me to switch or like be excited for another PlayStation when the key reason for me owning a console in the first place has basically been taken away. For the longest time, if you kind of think about it, I've basically been playing games in a worse manner because of the physical ownership. Now that that's basically removed, nothing stops me from going to GOG or Steam and just buying the games digitally and playing them on my computer anyways, which dwarfs a PlayStation 5. Probably would dwarf a fucking PlayStation 6 if we're going to be completely honest here. Now, the other big reality of this too is that one thing that I think a lot of young kids who are defending this kind of shit are people who are like, bruh, it's not that big of a deal, okay? Just buy the game digitally, bruh. Are not realizing that down the road, these stores come to a fucking end. So yesterday, I didn't talk about this because I was already reeling from the fact that physical fucking media basically is dead. PlayStation actually shut down PS3 and PS Vita stores. So while the downloads that you have, you will still be able to download them for the, again, Sony says, foreseeable future. But that means new content purchases will no longer be possible once the store closes. So imagine you're a kid now, right? You bought a PlayStation 6. That's your first system. Now down the road, by the time PlayStation 8 comes out, you still might be on a PlayStation 6, right? You might want to go back and pick up some game, right? Maybe it's only compatible with a PlayStation 6 or a PlayStation 7. Maybe it doesn't work on a PlayStation 8 because backwards compatibility might not support it. Who fucking knows? Well, now, down the road, by the time they had the next 2 generations of consoles, Sony might be like, okay, PlayStation 6 store is shutting down. It's not going to have access to the storefront. So now you're sitting there with a console that is functional, can connect to the internet, but because you're locked to one storefront, now you can't buy new games. You can just relive the games I guess you had. And you might be like, well, just buy a new console, bro. Just go and switch to a new console. What if you don't have the fucking money for it, What if there's no reason for you to go to it? Again, this is one of the reasons why, like, this whole process has been so stupid and why I've switched entirely. Like, why PC is only the logical place for me to stick with. And honestly, even then, I'm not so interested in, like, the new games anymore, dude. It's crazy, right? Like, when you look at preserving media, right? Music is easy. Like, if you want to share music or you want to, like, preserve music, it's not difficult to just have, like, a song out there. A song will exist on, like, 10 different storefronts. It'll be on 5 different streaming services. And, at best, you can just go to YouTube, type in the song name, and probably see it and just listen to it, right? When it comes to movies, right? Movies exist on so many different storefronts, right? I can download 10 different storefronts on my phone and get access to movies. I can stream them on so many different legitimate storefronts. And there's some people that, if you tell them, hey, watch this movie from like 20 years ago called like Hackers, they'll probably go to some like fucking off, brand, pirate streaming site and just watch the movie there. Or, you can do what I did, which is like if you have a movie, you can just rip the DVD onto your computer, or you can, fire up OBS and screen record the DVD so that for later you can have like a digital file sitting somewhere on a hard drive that you can watch later or, whatever. But with games, it's really not that simple. With things like digital rights management, right? Even purchasing physical media for PlayStation isn't the end all. The only reason this is good is because at the end of the day, PlayStation 4s can be hacked, right? So for instance, if you wanted to preserve Bloodborne is preserved because we were able to hack a PlayStation 4, rip the game onto that system, copy that ripped game onto our computers, and then use emulators like shutdowns to emulate those games. But what happens down the road when you're not even able to jailbreak these systems or preserve stuff down the road? That's going to be a really scary future where imagine if PlayStation now has like another banger, right? Like imagine if they release fucking Sly 5. A game that I'll be honest with you, like I would fucking, it would be hard to resist the temptation of playing a new Sly game, but imagine if that was locked behind the PlayStation 6 and the digital storefront. Purchasing that game, it comes with an expiration date. You never have the ability to preserve it, and it really is up to the generosity of Sony, which, let's be honest, these are AAA companies. They don't care about being fucking nice to you. That can be taken away at any given point, man. I guess we're at this point with video games where, for me, I think the only two AAA games that I'm genuinely hyped for is Grand Theft Auto 6 and Final Fantasy VII Revelations, like the third part. And I know for that, I can at least get Final Fantasy VII day one on Steam anyways. And with GTA 6, like, I was so hyped for that game, but like, man, when I found out that it was just a code in a box, like the hype died so dramatically for me. Like I was 100% ready. And now I'm at like a 15% like want for GTA 6. I'm at such a low state where I know that I'll get that game. But at this point, like all my friends are going to be getting it on PC anyways. Like we're all waiting the extra year anyways. And I don't even think it's going to be an extra year. I think Rockstar might release it earlier just to make their money, just to make more money, just to get people onto the online shark card hype even more. That I can kind of wait. And Sony's not really releasing anything at the moment that's like got my eyes glued to them. Like I don't care about the fucking new Wolverine or the God of War with the fucking flying cube and the sword. Like I don't really give a shit. At the end of the day, those are all like third party like fucking movie games that could be interchanged. But the fact that I can't even own them, I can't even like sit through that shit, I can't even like physically purchase or own them anymore, it just has taken all of that like excitement out of it. And I think the implications for like the gaming industry going forward, where we're just not owning our stuff, I push something like Stop Killing Games. It's one of the most important movements for me, but I think at this point, like a project that I want to personally chase now is probably Stop Killing Physical. Like I think that's the next important project that I think I need to put like my fucking time behind, or I need to find some way to like organize people that operate in the legal circles, the political circles, to be able to like push this stuff, man, because I don't see anybody at these top companies talking about this. I think a lot of these big companies like Square Enix, like Capcom, every single one of these companies are okay with this because at the end of the day, it's more money in their pocket and it's less ownership to you. But I don't think anybody should be okay with that, right? I don't think losing access to what you own is a good idea. I don't think losing the ability to share what you own, I think it should be illegal for companies to be able to take away your digital purchases because they call them purchases, but really they're just fucking rentals. Like if they called these things like, hey, you're renting a game, then it would be a different story. But when you use the term buy, and you got people going up and purchasing $60 games on a digital storefront, and they don't even understand half the time that they're really just renting a game, it just burns me in every fucking capacity. And I think that needs to change. I think it's not the fact that physical media is dead and digital media is like there. It's the fact that now digital media needs so many more protections that we need to start talking about. Otherwise, our entire like hobby here is really just under threat. Dude, think about all the storefronts like limited run games that are completely probably shitting themselves that holy fuck, our whole business model is kind of being threatened with a future of physicalless consoles. Imagine being imagine being the fucking GameStop company and thinking, oh, holy fuck, guys, let's just remove game from the fucking storefront and let's just put Funko Pops entirely. Like, we really have to fucking pivot there. Just imagine, like, if you're like a mom and pop shop, it's like now you really have to commit to the retro gaming because that's just where we're at, man. I mean, it's just such a like, what in the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, the last 2 weeks has been like, I feel like my fucking like dick has been like hammered down. Like somebody has taken ball peen hammers and just fucking smashed every fucking testicle, both of them, down to like dust. Nothing. It's over. Okay, just put me out of my fucking misery. It's fucked up, man. It really is. It's one of the stupidest decisions I've seen. And now that I've had some time to like really mull it over and think about it in my head, there is no positive to this. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like or dislike it. At least take this video as like sort of an educational thing. Like, I've shown you case examples. I've shown you reasons. Just take those things to heart, man. Like, even if you're somebody that has never fucking had the thought of touching a physical game because you're so into digital universe, just realize why it's bad for lockdown ecosystems. Like, yes, the PC is digital. Don't get me wrong. It's not something that I entirely prefer myself. But at least with the PC, it's an open platform. Would Sony open up their platform? Would Xbox open up? Would Nintendo open up? Especially Sony, who's willing to now sell things not at a loss. Like, you're just basically buying a fucking gimped down computer when you could just purchase the computer instead. Dude, you don't even need to have like the most shiny computer. You can just have like an entry-level box and be able to play that shit. I would much rather have a shitty computer than a top-of-the-line console with an expiration date. I'm out.